We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Hey guys, it is Tristan with nerdettes-newsstand, and we are back with a Ask the Experts, which I had a chance to do in a while, and I am so excited because you are the first person to come on here twice. Yes, score. We have Trevor, who does Area 51, the Helix Project. And this is a book I have talked about in a very positive light. It's one of those indies, like I was telling Trevor beforehand, that really makes you want more. That is a unique story. It is something fresh. And honestly, it's something that you're going to want to check out. So why don't, instead of me just shilling, why don't you tell everybody what the book is about? It like they've never seen it before.
Sure. I mean, well, thank you for that. Feel free to shill my book anytime. I will take it.
I love it.
But so Area 51, the Helix Project, is a sci-fi thriller comic book series that takes place primarily in the UFO hysteric 1970s America. And it sort of reimagines that the alien specimen that was mass sighted in Roswell, New Mexico in the late 40s has masqueraded as human for a few decades until he's forced to expose his alien physiology in a last-ditch attempt to save a young girl's life. But in doing so, it results in him being murdered in front of his son in cold blood. And so the boy, Kent, spends the next 13 years struggling to pick up the pieces until he's eventually confronted by a mysterious letter where its sender not only claims to have been there the day that his father was murdered, but that they somehow have a means of getting him back. So Kent is just driven to uncover the circumstances surrounding his father's death and questioning the cryptic motivations of whoever this person is. Meanwhile, is sort of dropped into the jaw of this Cold War genetics conspiracy and is frankly forced to face a twisted ghost from his past that plunges a dagger into everything he knows about himself and ultimately what it means to be human.
I love it. And you were talking specifically about that opening scene, and I'll say this every single time we have a conversation. That was so powerful.
Yeah.
And if you've read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. But there was a scene within the first issue that used an amazing color scheme and a little bit of a prayer. And oh my goodness, like goosebumps the first time you read it. It was wonderful. It was like instantly hook. I loved it.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's funny. I remember, our first time talking about that particular moment. And it's like after you had mentioned that to me, it seemed like quite a few people did. So there are actually a couple moments throughout the series where we sort of call back actually to some of the verbiage we used in that monologue where Kent sort of refers to the thunder at the end of a barrel, and we'll keep it that way. And we sort of unpack that as this like sort of hollow, empty thunder that has sort of consumed his life. And we go in a little bit on that on 4, 5, and 6, and sort of use that as the as a metaphor to really bring home the end of Kent's story. So it's really cool. So you might be able to say that you had a direct influence in that sort of carrying through.
I love it. That's so cool. So I have a question. When I was going through the Kickstarter, which will be in the description and in the pinned comment along with Trevor's channel, you had taught this. Is this it? Is this the last issue?
Second to last. So we got one more after this one. However, this one is big. I mean, we really kind of begin to move into the climax of the entire series. We begin to realize that some of our assumptions and some of the things we've been led to believe are not true. You begin to question sort of everything you understand about these characters and their roles in the story. And so much so that with my new artistic partner, Samuel Iwunze, he was doing such a good job that I actually re-edited the entire last half of the script, and we added 4 pages, an extra 4 pages to the issue.
Oh, wow.
Because I was like, I wanted to give the end of this book a lot of presence and a lot of weight in a way that we haven't quite done yet. And we're really pushing ourselves creatively. Like this issue, I think, probably has 4 or 5 of my favorite pages out of the entire series. Like if I were to have a top 10
Oh, wow.
favorite pages in the series, this issue has probably about half of them.
So you mentioned your artist. Can you tell us a little bit about who's on your team?
Yeah, so for issues 1 through 4, we had Brazilian artist Marcelo Salaza, who also did the A covers. For the entire series, as colorist, we've had Marcio Ferreri, who also did the secret cover, the C cover for issue 5, which is an absolute banger. Like it just looks like something you'd find on an old school classic sci-fi novel, which I'm in love with. Um, and then we have, of course, returning letterer Taylor Esposito. Um, Variant cover artist Adrian Bonilla from Spain, and then joining us as an interior artist and as the A cover artist, very happily, is this incredibly talented man out of Lagos, Nigeria. His name's Samuel Iwunze. He is, man, he's a freaking beast. The guy's incredible. He's great to work with, but I think it just shows on the page. I mean, you've seen some of the preview
Yeah.
pages from issue 5, and some of the stuff he's doing in the storytelling is just, it's inspiring, in a way that when I go to edit the pages, when I go to give my notes, I smile, in by my lonesome, in front of my computer, and I don't think I could ask for anything more than that.
I did not realize when I was looking at, so one thing that drives me crazy sometimes when you've got a really good run going on, you Batman or anything, is
Mhm.
they'll switch artists and they'll be completely different styles. And
Mm.
I've got them pulled up here, and there's a lot of like carryover. It's not going to feel when you're reading, the whole thing that it is a completely different person. Did you kind of seek out somebody that had a similar art style?
So it was, Sam doesn't necessarily have a similar art style, but he does have a similar, the way he likes to construct his lines are similar. And so, like, when you look at, and this is kind of getting into the weeds of it, but when you look at Marcelo's lines, they're sort of rounded, they're sort of bold.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a lot of crazy hatching. There's a lot more implication through sort of more simple lines. And so my conversation with Samuel when it came to jumping onto the book was, I mean, we're making this transition for a reason, because I think your work is incredible. But for the sake of the readership and for the sake of my own sanity, I want there to be some stylistic carryover, right? I don't
Right.
want it to be jarring, because at the end of the day, hopefully one day this will be read as a graphic novel, as one complete story. Or if somebody decides to read it chapter by chapter, but nonetheless one large story. And so, I wanted to make sure that there was a visual continuity, and that was a very deliberate conversation that we had. And also just knowing that there are certain strengths that Sam has, compared to Marcelo, and vice versa. So I wanted to take advantage of that as well, in a way that doesn't kind of pull you out,
Oh
and,
yeah.
and just curating the reading experience. So yeah, that was very much a conversation. I mean, when Sam was first hopping on the books, one of the first things we did was actually we almost went back as if we were starting a series from the beginning, in the sense that we went through character profiles, we went through gestures, we did sort of a rap sheet, just so that we were on a mutual understanding of what this world is going to look like and how these characters behave. And as you can see in those previews, I mean, Sam just, he understands it to its core.
Amazing. Like it almost reminded me of the way it was set up. J.H. Williams III has this very unique way of putting together panels.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very like obviously not the same, but it was reminiscent of that kind of fresh look on, you're not getting 9-page panels. You're getting something very unique, and they're stunning. I zoomed in as you were talking. I'm like, wow, you can tell a little bit of a difference, but not in a bad way, in an amazing way.
Oh, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's an incredible compliment, because J.H. Williams is just, like, I mean, unheard ofly
Phenomenal.
talented.
Oh yeah.
Man, like, I would probably sever off, like, all the toes on my feet to work with J.H. Williams. So I'll take it.
Same. Oh my gosh, I can't even draw right or anything, but same. So you talked about character profiles you had went through. Tell us about the
Mhm.
characters. Now,
Yeah.
I love, is it Marissa?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I need to know more about this chick, because like all of this is a mystery, but then she's so mysterious too. I know Kent's the main character, but the whole time I'm like, she's kind of a girl boss. She's kind of awesome. I
Yeah.
love her. I need to know more. Can you tell us a little bit more about the characters?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, when it came to writing the series, it's the first thing I've ever done, and so I wanted to keep a tight cast of characters, just to one as an exercise, and two just to make sure that as a new writer that I was, these characters had personalities that were individual and that I could make them do that organically and feel individually, because like when you don't have pitch and tone, right, or like compared to like actors or anything with an audible quality to it, it can be a lot harder to distinguish characters' voices without
Mhm.
being too ham-fisted. And so that was like a really, really big thing for me. I wanted to have characters in a way that were thematically sort of mirrors of one another, but were as people very different. So the main cast comprises Kent, who is our protagonist, Marissa, or formerly known as M,
Yeah.
um, Roswell, who is Kent's father, Colonel Winters, who is the antagonist of the series, and for a small time, Kent's mother. Um, and so when you sort of explore these characters, really, I think most of the characters in some way are meant to represent Kent seen through a mirror at a different angle. And you'll begin to understand a little bit more about that comparison come issue 5, particularly. But they're almost like what ifs, like what if Kent had this backstory? What if Kent had this backstory? What if Kent was raised this way? Um, because I often find, like for me, I mean, like my favorite character in fiction is Bruce Wayne Batman, and one of the things that I love about his rogues gallery and why I think they challenge him so appropriately are that they are these sort of inverted mirror images of
Right.
elements of Bruce Wayne, right? Like Mr. Freeze is the solitary, the lonesome, the caring too much. You have the Joker, who is that sort of that deeper darkness ready to set itself loose. And Two-Face, I think, is probably a little bit more broad, but again, it is just representative of that other side of himself that he so desperately wants to let out at times. Ra's al Ghul is that sort of domineering, like everything that he could be capable of doing if he were, a little bit more selfishly oriented. So for
Right.
me, I in a way I wanted to model the cast um, of this story in that same fashion, because I felt that that was the best way to explore Kent and to challenge Kent throughout the course of the story.
I love it. I love looking, because I went back through them before the interview, and I'm like trying to go through and figure out where this could be going, like theorizing in my head. And you talked about tone and pitch, and because it's not something audible. And the whole time, when it comes to M or Marissa, all I can picture is somebody like Aubrey Plaza, that sassiness, that like obviously she has a different hair color, but that kind of attitude. And I'm
Mm,
like, I love her. I love to hate her, and I love her at the
yeah.
same time. And she's great. And you said one thing. You said the mother for a bit.
Hmm.
I'm guessing she's not coming back. Like she was so great.
Um, the series ends with a bang, in a big way. So the closure that you're gonna get from this story isn't necessarily going to be Kent going home to mom. Um, it is the ultimate testament, I think, to the themes that we've been trying to weave throughout the story and to Kent's character arc. This character will be challenged up until the end of the series, because I think I mean, it was just the most interesting for me, creatively
Right.
speaking. This character certainly has not had an easy life, and I feel like it would kind of betray um, this character's arc for me to give him too satisfying of an ending,
Right.
if that makes sense. Now, in a way, and I could just be saying this because I'm the guy that wrote it and has been stewing with it. The ending does have a bit of catharsis, and it does really emphasize Kent's character arc, and what sort of makes him stand out, from where he is at the end of the series versus issue 1, where he, back at the beginning of the story, we find him and he is totally sort of like inadequate and like sort of and trapped in a storm of his own thoughts and
Right.
insecurities. And he lacks agency despite this great potential. And so the end of this story will force Kent to grab his own agency. And the sort of the interesting contrast here, the juxtaposition, is that in the beginning of the story, Kent wanted agency and he couldn't grab it, and now he has agency, and I don't think he wants it. So
Ooh. I like it. I like it a lot. When it comes to writing this, so you started out, you're brand new, you're just getting into this book. Has the end or the way you've written this, has it always been the same story, or has it evolved as you've went on?
Oh, certainly, yeah, it's evolved, over the course of writing the characters and getting to know them beyond, just being these things that I came up in my head, I kinda had to let them take on their own form, and that also meant readjusting their arcs, for what was going to be the thing that they needed most as characters, in my mind at least, but I will say I've had a rough a generally in terms of the plot, I've had a pretty rough, solid idea of where this story was gonna end for a majority of it. It's just the way we deliver it and the way we get there that has changed, that always felt sort of appropriate, that end destination. It's just the journey that we take, to get to that moment. And again, even so far as, editing the last, half of issue 5 in order to just deliver it in a different way and give it a little bit more space to be impactful. Certainly open to doing that. I mean, once we start issue 6, I would almost be a little surprised if I didn't do some slight sort of, uh, editing to the way we're pacing the end of the issue in order to, um, yeah, I mean, just adjust and reflect on the successes and even the failures of issue 5, creatively speaking.
Oh yeah, and I know this is kind of looking maybe a little too much into the future, but
Mhm.
do you have plans to continue at least creating afterwards? Do you have plans
Oh,
with
yeah.
continuing this story afterwards, or is this done?
For now, I think this story rests. I
Okay.
have I have an idea of where I if I ever did want to come back, to this space specifically, like where I might be able to go. But I do think that this story does get a natural ending, and I'm pretty reluctant to pick up after that and to spoil that. So if I do, um, I want to make sure that the idea and the execution is perfect,
Right.
because it's a lot, to kind of yeah, I mean, I'm giving this story its rest, and so for me to wake it up, I would have to have a really, really good story to do it and a really proper story. Um, but I think for now we give it a rest, and I think also creatively, as much as I've really, really enjoyed writing this story, I mean, for a new guy, to take on a 6-issue series right out the gate, that's pretty uncommon. A
Oh
lot of people
yeah.
in my position will do short stories or like single issues or whatever. And I'm ready to try some new stuff and to flex the creative muscles that I've sort of built up over the course of this last year and a half since this story has been coming out. So, yeah, I think at the top of 2023, we will probably be crowdfunding my first anthology book.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, where I'll have probably somewhere between 6 to 8, comic book short stories of all different genres, with a bunch of different collaborators, some, familiar faces that you guys have come to love and some new fresh faces that I've met over the course of the last, like, year doing, all the convention travel and whatnot that I'm super excited for. But creatively, not only does it give me a chance to work with new people and learn new ways, to go about the process, but it gives me a chance to play in all these different sandboxes creatively in terms of genre
Yeah.
and kinda learn the different tools of each genre and even figuring out maybe how I can integrate some of the tools that I've acquired over the course of the Helix project that I might be able to sort of integrate in other places and vice versa, so that's going to be super exciting. There will be sort of a broad theme throughout the course of every story in the anthology. And that's kind of the plan. So every anthology is going to be themed off of a time of day or a numeral on the Pocket Watch, apropos my publishing company, Pocket Watch Press. And so this first story for me had to start at midnight. And for me, that means that I have to tell a story about perspective. The sort of midnight clarity, the changing between days, the death of an old day, the birth of a new one. I think that there's a lot of fertile ground for stories, and it gives me a lot of space to play and to not only do a lot in the sense of variety, but have them all sort of come together for a relatively common theme. We're just exploring those things from different angles.
Dang, now I can't wait for that one too.
I'm so excited. I'm so
That's
excited.
awesome. I love that idea. This is what I mean. This is so unique. The ideas brought to the table are something we've been reading comics for years, right?
Mhm,
We know Batman's going to go up against the Joker. We know that the Joker's going to cause chaos and Gotham will return to status quo. And we know these things, but
mhm.
we still continue to read. But we always look for fresh new ideas through that medium. And this
Yeah.
is kind of I've never heard of anything like that, and I love it. I love diving in. And that's what's so great about indies, about being able to use Kickstarter and stuff like that. You can get those different kind of ideas. Sometimes they don't work out. Sometimes they work out great like this. Now, you're using Kickstarter exclusively, correct?
For now, yeah.
Okay.
I've not closed the door on attempting, other places. I think for me, with a 6-issue series, I've certainly considered going elsewhere, but I also realized, like, it is one continuous story, and does it really feel right to up and, like, sort of change my location when I built my
Right.
following there? So, yeah, I mean, I definitely looked into other spots like Zoop. I mean, they've reached out to me about potentially doing something on their platform in the future. So I'd never say no. I'm not overly loyal to Kickstarter. So
And yeah, I've heard pretty decent things about Zoop too. I know it's newer, but I
Mhm.
mean, everything's worth a try, maybe get
Yeah,
more people, get more interest, and it deserves
yeah.
the eyes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, insofar as them also, so I mean, they're sort of in the same space that I'm in regarding to, I mean, my career is very new and very young, and I'm trying to do my best to innovate in any way that I can, and they're doing the same for the comic book, crowdfunding market, and so I feel like there is a symbiosis that could be had there, and that, from every conversation I've had with Jordan from Zoop, it seems like they get behind their creators, which is, all that I could ask for is somebody
Oh
who,
yeah.
over the course of the 5 issues that I've done, I haven't gotten a Project We Love badge up until this 5th issue, despite its success, despite, I think the relative quality, um, of its production on the platform. So, yeah, I'm very open to trying new things and to playing in new spaces. And like I said, I think a place like Zoop does sort of make a lot of sense for someone like me. So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. When it comes to your perks, I want to talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit because I I still find it amazing you keep it so well priced and competitive within an actual market. You're not spending $35 for a book. You're
Mm.
getting all of the books, for something very similar. So how were you able to be able to keep it at such a good price?
I don't know if it's I don't know if it's necessarily about the ability to do it because I think anybody could do it. I just think people choose not to. And
That's
I
true.
mean, the numbers say it all. I mean, there are people who charge triple, quadruple what I charge, and they make a lot more money than I do. And I've said it in the past, both sort of privately and on public interviews with you. I've always been big about the integrity, both creatively and as someone who's delivering a product. So I've always been about just delivering value. The physical print quality on these books are 2 times thicker than what you're getting at any of the major companies. Um, and somewhere near the same price and with no advertisements. Now, if I'm going to be completely honest, it seems like the market hasn't, really appreciated that as much as I hoped they would.
Right.
Um, so, I don't quite get the sales that I would hope for based off of that. But I do the best that I can. I mean, really up until this 5th Kickstarter, like signatures always came free on them. And I mean, now I charge a flat $1 fee for however many books you want
Yeah.
just to literally offset Kickstarter. Um, and even then I feel uncomfortable doing that, but, I do the best that I can to deliver arguably more value than what people get because in my mind, and it's proving to maybe not necessarily be true, but in my mind, I figure if I do right by the people, they'll do right by me and the word of mouth will spread. Um, Now, admittedly, if we go at the same pace we're going, I'm not going to be able to continue delivering the books at this price. However, if we can pick up traction and the right people tell more people, then yeah, I'd love to keep delivering the books at this price. I mean, throughout the pandemic, throughout the paper shortages, throughout the price hikes for the products, I mean, I've kept relatively the same price. So all I can do is hope that the market and that the customers and that the readers see that and appreciate it and want to support it and share it with other people.
Absolutely. That means all of you guys have to go get that link and share it on your social media. Last
I'd appreciate
question
that.
for you. This is a big one. Who
Mm.
would play Cat if this was live action?
Oh, I've had this baked in my head for like a year. Get him to bulk up a little bit. I would definitely love to see like Timothy Chalamet play Kent. I'd be
Ooh,
pretty
that would
down
be
for that.
great. Oh, that would be
Yeah.
kind of perfect. Okay, now you gotta answer, also. You gotta. Because I
Mm.
kind of gave who I thought would be great with her, but now I need to know who you do.
Oh, I could do one option is Florence Pugh. I think she'd be interesting. Um, another option. Uh,
Wait, Florence Pugh, isn't she old?
no. Florence Pugh
Oh,
plays.
oh, from Black Widow.
Yeah. She's the White
Oh yeah,
Widow.
she'd be great.
Yeah, I think she'd be really great, and I mean, physically, she's also quite close. In terms of chops, I would also. Oh man. In terms of like pure acting chops, I mean, I haven't seen this person play a role of this tone, but I'd be cool with like Saoirse Ronan,
Ooh.
um, playing Marissa. I feel like she has the chops to really bring something cool to that character. So yeah,
Oh
that'd be
yeah,
kind of cool.
that would be cool. I think that would be amazing. Kent would be so hard because I have, when you start to enjoy something, you get this kind of idea
Mhm.
of who this person is, and yeah, I think he would be perfect. I'm not gonna
Mm.
lie. He would have to
Yeah,
play it perfect, and I would be very critical, but I'm just saying.
I mean,
I love it.
I feel like it'd be super cool. I mean, like, I mean, I've got a cast for. I mean, like, get Josh Brolin to play Roswell.
Oh my
Um,
god, so perfect.
and the Colonel, I'd be like super down for like Clancy Brown.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love
let's
it.
make this
We've already
movie.
got the cast. Let's make it happen.
Let's make it.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and make sure you got to check out, at least look at the link and check it out. It is something that I, from the very first issue, have really grown to love. It's an amazing story. It is beautifully drawn. The coloring is exceptional. I promise you. This is not me shilling that. Well, I mean, by technicality, but I mean, I wouldn't be shilling if it wasn't worth it. You guys, make sure you check out that link. And is there anything you wanted to add before we go?
I mean, nothing other than thank you. Is seriously, Tristan, you've been super supportive of me and the work, and the praise does nothing but motivate me to do my best and to try to get the best out of my collaborators. So, and thanks for anybody who's gotten to the point of listening to me babble for a little bit. Appreciate that. Uh, I hope you guys consider checking it out. Campaign ends July 23rd. We've got about $500 to go as of the time of this recording, which is very manageable. You can get 6 digital comics for $22, which includes the old edition of issue 1 and the new edition of issue 1, which has some cool like behind the scenes back matter and a brand new cover. 6 issues for $22 digital, which is dirt cheap.
Right.
You, I think, could catch up physically on the series for as low as it's like in the ballpark of like $30,
I think it was 36 or right around there.
something
It
like
was,
that. Maybe I think maybe 36 after shipping, right?
yeah, it was super cheap
Yeah,
for
yeah.
for
So
6 comics.
yeah, guys, consider checking it out. The more of you that get in on the ground floor while I'm delivering them at this price, the easier it's going to be for me to continue delivering them at this price. We've got a creative team from literally all around the world working on this project and pouring ourselves into it. So I really hope you guys will consider checking it out. We are, I think, running like we are firing on all cylinders for the end of the story. I think that my maturity as a storyteller and as a collaborator is on full display. The creative relationships that I have with the team is also on full display. I've never like this issue 5. I've never, I don't think, been more proud of anything I've ever done in my life, more
That's
than this.
amazing. I'm so
Um,
excited now.
so I'm super stoked for you guys to check it out. And if you don't have the means right now to check it out financially, which I totally understand, just share the link with a friend. Share it with somebody you think might enjoy it, or with a community online. Word of mouth is everything. That's literally how little guys like me make a career. So I appreciate you
Absolutely.
guys. Appreciate you, Tristan. Seriously, you're the best for just letting me like yell about things that don't exist for 30 minutes.
I love it though. If I don't always bring on indie creators, when I do, it's because I believe in them. And this
I appreciate
project is worth it.
Oh, thank you. Seriously, it means the world, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to chat. It's over the course of the last year, I have done a lot of interviews with a lot of different people, and our conversations are consistently like at the top of that list. Like I really, really enjoy chatting with you, and
Yay.
I really enjoy the questions that you bring to the table because they're not like the same cookie cutter questions that and not to throw shade on anyone else because they're
Right.
exposing me to their audience and they want to get certain information out of the way, but I really do get to enjoy like actually thinking more about my answers to the questions that I don't get all the time. So thank you.
Oh, no problem whatsoever. It's amazing. Yes. But we will see you guys in the next one. Get the link. I promise you it's worth it. Bye bye.